We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast for the white papers. And, there's a lot here, right? I mean, we're going through a lot of white papers and then, the different phases and trying to keep track of them and connect them into everything else. And so we go through phase one, learning to think differently. And then, then phase two, the income machine. And then phase three, life, vision, passion, leverage, and a whole lot more. And then we go into phase four. My biggest challenge is me. And, so we're clipping through this here. And, secret about time, I'm overwhelmed, and intentionality and discipline. And so, one of the 9 companies that I own is Synergy Solutions. One of our products is Action Vision. And so it's helping business owners uh, discover their life vision and their business vision, and then what actions need to be taken. So I don't know. After that, I've owned that company for 33 years. And after about 15 years, I noticed something and I said, it's great going into a business. I love going into businesses and get the business where it's running without them. I love that. So they don't own a job, they own a company. But then I noticed that when they became more productive, there were more business opportunities.
Mhm.
And so, well, that didn't help them in other areas of their life, because now you just have more opportunities. And
Right.
so we mentioned that a little bit on the secret about time. Um, how does that connect into why I choose not to succeed? This may be one of my favorite white papers here. This is on top of the list.
Okay.
Um, this is the one we're reviewing today, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So um, I think before I jump into mine, I'd love to have your feedback, your feedback on this white paper.
I liked how it was saying um, on getting defensive that we can't learn. And I know you've said that a number of other times also, but just reading it here was like, wow, that is so true because we're blocking everything out because we think we're right.
Right? Right?
Yes.
And so at the next coffee connection, if you're going through this series, uh, and you don't have a coffee connection, you want a coffee connection. And and you you can start like your first coffee connection will be the best one. You'll never be able to reproduce the first one. Why is that, Mark? Because the first coffee connection that you have in your area is going to be one person. It's going to be you.
Mhm.
That's it. So I don't know if you all are like me, but I don't like being around stupid people. I was looking for Cheryl some type of response there. I didn't get the response I was hoping for. Um,
Sorry.
it's okay. Um, so maybe if Patrick was here, he'd laugh. That's so true. Um, so this is a white paper that was inspired by stupid people, and it wasn't. This was many years ago, and so it wasn't until just in the last few months that I discovered the difference between ignorant and stupid, a tight definition. So ignorant is not knowing what to do, and stupid is not doing what we know.
Mhm.
And so this white paper, like I couldn't figure out, like why is it that people just like? Are you familiar with the term snake bit?
Snake bit?
Yeah.
No.
So snake bit is when something bad is always happening to somebody.
Okay.
So I discovered this when I was, 26 years old. I had a salesperson. He was a CPA. He was a loan officer. He's a CPA, and he always had bad things happening to him. Like he just always did. Like one bad thing and then another bad thing and another bad thing and another bad thing. There's always something bad. Now, when you first get to know somebody who's snake bit, you feel bad for them.
Uh-huh.
But over time, you start, I don't feel bad for them. And so that's the kind of response I'm looking for. So Cheryl knows what I'm talking about. She's got some people in her life that are snake bit. And when they meet new people or they go to church or their family friends and they get bit by a snake and they're like, I got bit by a snake. And like they have something bad happen to them. And everybody's like, oh, that's so terrible. And Cheryl and I are like, don't do that. Do not feed their monster. Like you wonder, and it's true. They just go ahead and get into a pit with snakes. Like if you're going to get into a pit with snakes, you're going to get bit by like hello,
Yep.
and so they just do stupid things, and you think I think they're just doing it. I think they're just doing it to get attention. And so
Yeah.
in my journey in life, a lot of people who hang around with me, well, everybody who hangs around with me, I think, I don't know, Cheryl can validate this or not, but everybody who hangs out around with me, Cheryl's probably different, so she probably won't validate this. But most people who hang around with me, like Patrick, Ryan, his wife, like, why do you hang around with Mark? And he's like, yeah, I don't know. And he says, why do people hang around with you? I'm like, right? Like, and um, so Cheryl didn't give us any visual there. She didn't say, yeah, I've thought that. I think that I don't even know why I show up. Like she's not giving us any verbal or visual feedback there. So in this, but people who hang around me do go ahead and say, Mark, now that I see, like you say things, and I'm like, I've never noticed that before. And I really don't want to notice it. Like you don't want to see how stupid people are. You just don't.
Right.
Like you're just like when somebody says, I'm not doing that. So I use that a lot. Like I'm not being mean to women. Like I'm not being defensive. Like this is classic when somebody says any of the 9Ds. When somebody says any of the 9Ds here, I'm not doing this, pretty sure they are. So when they say I'm not distracting you, I'm not dividing you, I'm not deferring, deflecting, defending, denying, destroying, I'm not deceiving, I'm not disguising. Anytime somebody puts a not in front of any of these, they probably are. So once I learned that trick, I just go ahead and say, I'm not being mean to you. I'm just saying you're an idiot. I'm not being mean though. like, and they get ticked about that. Boy, do the people who use not, because you found out like their little trick, And so there's a new white paper.
Why do they do that?
So, it's the same reason people say they're sorry when they're really not.
But why would you say you're sorry when you're not? That's dumb.
Because they think it works.
Okay.
Like, so they have the perception, and the reason they have the perception it works is not only are they dumb, but all the people around them are dumb too, because everybody trains everybody. So eventually, the person who's like this has so much drama that you just kind of roll your eyes and just go, you don't confront them because they're so stupid. You don't want to deal with it. So they think they're getting away with it. They think you're actually buying in. This is why stupid people don't like being around me. because
I have a question for you.
yeah,
Do you believe it's necessary to apologize multiple times for the same thing?
I almost never I almost never apologize. Almost never. I mean, like once we were coming home from seeing Jonathan in Nashville, and Tim was probably, I don't know, 14 or 15, and it was, it's a 10-hour drive or whatever. And I was in the front seat, and Roseanne and I were, so we had been married for 30 years, 35 years. And Tim was in the back seat, and I thought he was sleeping. You can see where this story is going. And so I don't know. I was tired. I mean, that's my reason, my excuse. I was exhausted. So we had been married for 30, 35 years, something like that. And I just was tired. I wasn't in the mood for Rosanna's stuff, my wife's stuff. I just wasn't in the mood for it. So I'm like,
Mhm.
you know what? I'm just going to apologize and try to do it as sincerely as I can because I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with her stuff. So I did. And I kind of got away with it until the next day. And so there's my buddy. How's CJ doing today?
Hannah Mark. Say Hannah Mark. Hannah Mark. Right
Hey,
here.
buddy. Have you
Yep, right
noticed that I've been talking softer lately or not?
there. What?
Have you been noticing that I talk softer lately or not?
Mark doesn't talk as loud anymore.
Well, he thinks that, but I'm not sure it's true. My wife and girls, they might say, yeah, he's silly. Mark is silly. He's talking just as loud as he always was. Good to see you, CJ.
Yeah.
Love you,
Yeah.
buddy. So we get home, and the next morning, Tim comes up to me. He says, Dad, I was really proud of you. I'm like, okay. He said, I don't think I've ever heard you apologize to mom. And I'm like, dang, the one time he hears me apologize, it wasn't even a real apology. Like it's not even, I was faking it. I'm like, I didn't know what to feel. I didn't know how to feel. And so, and then another time I apologized when I didn't, didn't think I wanted, like, it's like, no, it was my son, Ben. And it was soon after Jonathan's death. And my youngest daughter, she was not being nice
Just
to
leave it alone,
to me
CJ.
and a bunch of people. And he says, Dad, just apologize to her. I'm like, for what? This is why Peter Miles, we did a podcast with him. And wow, was
Can't
that
do it. Nope.
was, was that cool? I've never heard that before. So have you read the white paper an apology protocol?
No.
Oh my goodness. By Patrick, and it's really good. Anyways, Peter said in the podcast we had Peter Miles, he said, I'm happy to have a conversation to determine if I should apologize to you as long as you're willing to consider that you may need to apologize to yourself for thinking of me and others the way you do. Like, like, whoa. Like when he said that, I'm like, wow. So there's two people in my life, two kind of extended family members that think I owe them an apology. They've told their wives or girlfriends that your dad needs to apologize to me. Like, I'm like, no, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I'm not seeing it. So to me, Cheryl, um, I don't like when people apologize to me and do the same thing again. It
Right.
just irritates me. So it's weird because when I apologize to my youngest daughter, so there's two times in my life that I remember apologizing. So people would think, well, that's really terrible. Mark doesn't apologize. Well, that's one way to think about it. And I'm willing to have that conversation. Another another way to think about it is Mark actually is sorry. He just doesn't say he's sorry. He just changes his behavior. Like, to me, that's a lot smarter thing to do.
No. Right? What?
Louder.
I can turn it louder, but then you gotta go in the living room. Mommy can't
I
hear.
don't know, like when I found out CJ was he's a little bit, what, about me talking too loud. I don't know if I apologized to him. I don't know. But because I care for him, I'm like, I'm just going to change my behavior. So I would far rather have somebody change their behavior than apologize. Like, why apologize? Why not just change your behavior?
Right.
I mean, to me, that just seems like a smarter thing to do. So in here,
Yeah.
and so when I apologized to my youngest daughter, she was doing nannying and it was weird. She's like, well, Dad, I said, hey, so Ben, he's like, you need to apologize to her. And I'm like, why? Why? Well, you just need to. But I don't know what I did wrong. And I have a rule, don't apologize if you don't know what you did wrong.
Right.
You know, so I violated that rule and it was weird. In talking with her, I'm like, I apologize to you. And she says, for what? Or no, she like, for what, Dad? Like when the kids I'm nannying, when they apologize, I make sure they know what they're apologizing for. So what are you sorry for, Dad? I'm like, right? That's what I'm saying, honey. I don't know why I'm apologizing. Your brother Ben said that I should apologize to you. I don't think I should, but I don't know what I did wrong. Like, I don't know. Like, you tell me, honey, what am I apologizing? Oh my goodness. And so those are my two apology stories. And so,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, once I went ahead and asked Rosanna, I don't know, 1 to 10, 1 to 10, how would you rate our marriage? And I think she said an 8 or 9. I said, what could I do to make it higher, a 10? And she said, not put your clothes on the ottoman, in the bedroom. I'm like, okay. So I did that, for a little period of time. And then I went ahead and slid back into it again. And she brought it up again. And I remember thinking, I am the worst husband in the world. But then I started thinking, well, why are you doing it? Why are you putting it on there? And it's like, well, I just wore this sweatshirt or the shorts or something once. Like, I don't want to increase her laundry load,
Mm-hmm.
and so I don't know. I don't know if I apologized, but I am conscious of that. That is the thing that I am working on the most. And it's been something that's been a struggle for 10 years, 15 years, maybe longer. Maybe it took me 30 years of marriage. She put up with it for 30 years of marriage. So I don't know. So in here, the mindset is, there's nine D's to defeat, seven P's to prosperity. And it's like, why don't I succeed? Why choose not to succeed? And so in the next coffee connection, Cheryl, can you go ahead and share about this white paper?
Possibly, yeah.
So my
What do you,
hope is that people would read the white paper, internalize it. I don't have to tell them this.
So on the checklist, Mark, we need to put down that we need copies of this white paper for Cheryl.
Yes.
so what do you want me to talk about?
Well, you had said that at the beginning, you had said something about you had heard me say it, but it meant a lot more to you when you read it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
What was that?
Oh my goodness, I don't remember how I worded it.
I don't remember what the topic was. Defensiveness.
to-
Yeah, it was defensiveness.
Yep.
So when somebody's defensive, their learning stops. They stop learning.
Right.
So it's either it's defensiveness and or explaining yourself. Like when
Okay.
Christians, especially Christians, man, they irritate me. Man,
Okay.
why are you laughing?
Do you consider yourself a Christian?
If you most would consider me a Christian, yes.
No, I said, do you?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know. Maybe.
And that's a great answer. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, probably. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm so ashamed of Christians I don't want to identify with them. Well, maybe I am saying that. I
What?
don't know.
Why do they irritate you?
There's so many reasons, Cheryl. They
Okay.
they lack integrity. They say they're going to do stuff and they don't do it. Like that's a lack of integrity. And
Yeah.
then they explain themselves. The Bible doesn't say let your yea be yea with an explanation, your nay nay with an explanation.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It says let your yea be yea and your nay nay. Your yes yes, your no no. Like why don't Christians do that? Why do they always explain themselves? And then once they explain themselves, then it's like putting a witness on the witness stand. You know what? You put a witness on the witness, you explain yourself to me, and I'm going to cross-examine your witness. And when I do, you're not going to like it. You're not going to like it. And then you're going to get ticked at me for cross-examining your witness because your witness is honestly stupid. And if you're putting a witness up on the stand, well, you're stupid too. I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
And so I'm working on this new white paper. Can't wait till where we get to review it. It's called, the title is Addicted to Lazy. And wow, is it a cool one? So this one here is, the crab in the bucket. And I discovered this one when we went out to Lakota Indian Reservation in South Dakota. And, the Lakota chief says so it's the poorest county in the whole United States. Poverty's huge there. If your wife or your daughter or your granddaughter, any woman in your life has any altercation with the police, there's a high probability she's going to get raped. You just know it. She's going to get raped by the police. It's insane.
Wow.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And nobody does anything about it. It's just crazy. And so when he said, we Lakota Indians, so he's doing a self-analysis. He say, we as a group of people, which is totally unusual. Groups of people don't say that. They just don't. They just don't. People within the group. So, in the black community, who's the biggest threat to the black community? It's Clarence Thomas. He's black. So when somebody in a community, in a group, who's the biggest threat to women? It's women. Who's the biggest threat to Christians? It's another Christian. So within a group, like groups protect themselves from any type of, feedback or whatever from other people, criticism from other people. And then what they do is they push out people that are criticizing them. It's why Christians don't like me. It's why pastors don't like me.
Right.
I'm far more dangerous than an atheist. Like they can discount an atheist, they can discount anybody else, but if you're a Christian, it's hard for them to discount me. So I said, what does it mean being a crab in the bucket? And he says, when one of us Lakota Indian, when we try to crawl out of the bucket, all the other crabs pull back in. And I thought that was very profound. This is what happens with women. This is what happens with Christians. It's what happens with Black community, Latino, Chinese, anyone. People tend to come together in groups, and being in a group like the Bonhoeffer's, theory of stupidity, he says in that video, he says, when you get together in a group, it seems like stupid gets bigger.
Okay.
I mean, that's what he says. And so, and I see that because what you do is you go ahead and everybody agrees. This is, you know, there was a girls' night, at our house, and I don't know, there were like 8 women and and some other little girls. It's like, and just me, and Avery. Yeah, we were the two guys. It was intriguing. It was interesting. Like, I don't even know what to think of it. Anyways, so the crab in the bucket. So it's hard to go against your own group of people. And so that's why you have massive poverty. It's like a virus, it spreads. It's how people think. Oh, and this goes into our belief system. And so if somebody asks me, Mark, do you believe in white privilege? I do. I do. Absolutely. What is white privilege to you, Mark? It's that my parents went ahead and taught me to work hard, taught me to save money, you know, taught me not to get really nice cars, taught me to go ahead and not, you know, have pedicures, manicures, and spend a whole bunch of stuff on superficial surface types of things that take your wealth and create poverty. Like it creates poverty. It's consumption. It's a consumption mindset. Consume and consume. So our belief system. So my parents taught me to work hard. So that's, and they taught me to save money. And then they taught me to be generous, to give, to impact other people. They taught me all of that. And so, people say, that's your white privilege. I'm like, it is. And it's like, well, are you saying, Mark, that that's not in the Black community? I didn't say that.
Yeah.
If you're going to connect the dots, you get to connect the dots. Don't blame me for connecting dots. But like, you connect dots, whatever you have. It's like I lay something down, and if you want to pick it up, you can pick it up. But don't blame me for picking it up. Like, that's a snake. Like, you can pick it up if you want, but if you get bit by it, don't blame me. So this is a belief system. This is really cool. And it talks about the next dimension and the 5 H's and the dimensional gap. There's some really, really neat things in here. And then Dr. Pastor James McDonald, I thought it was good from John chapter 9. So this was in one of the sermons, Cheryl, that he had.
Okay.
So turn it into a system, the 6 steps to overcoming blindness. And so, Elaine, this is, should we use this for our book, Clean Windows, Learning to See Things We Can't See? I don't know, maybe. Like, clean your glasses, narrow thinking blurs your vision. Get involved. Involvement opens your eyes. Close your mouth. Our ceaseless talking prevents us from seeing. Open your mind. Analysis paralysis blinds us. Stand on your story. Seek the truth and always make it stick. Humble your heart. We often need others to help us to see. Like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Then our belief system, it starts out with trust. We're born, so we trust our parents. And then love, and then borrowed, and then experience, and then education, and then faith, and then pressure, and then character. Like, it's like the DNA. Like, just any other thoughts either of you ladies have on, why I choose not to succeed?
I really, really like this Q&A from Nancy Collier.
Okay.
I really, really like that.
I don't even remember what that one was. Oh, that one. Yeah. Yepper. See, this is what I don't understand. I don't understand it. Like, I would think if somebody internalized, a white paper, that they would always have a question. Like, they would always have a question.
Okay.
But people who read white papers, they don't have questions, and I don't understand why.
Didn't you just answer your own question there?
Because they didn't internalize it.
Right.
Why? Why would you read something? Do people just like to read just to read? Like, why would you read something and not internalize it? I don't understand that.
No.
Elaine, any questions you have or?
Um, just thinking how, like, how do you teach people or how do you help people, whatever the correct term is, um, to when they read to take just paragraphs at a time and stop and think about what the paragraph is saying before they go on and figure out like what is it saying, what what are the next steps that I could be doing or should be doing or anything to help them think deeper. I think a lot of it is nobody wants to dig deeper. Um, Either they've dug deeper and have been hurt or haven't had good results from it, or they're just lazy at a heart level and don't feel like digging deeper.
And their perception, I think, is that it's a perception they haven't been helped or they've been hurt. And so it comes back to almost like arrogance, like what my feelings are truth. And it's like, well, your feelings are something, but it's not necessarily truth, it's your feelings. So I think what, Ginger Ann is doing with her two daughters, at the age of 7, the 7-year-old twins, and she's going through and she did a 30-day challenge, with a secret about time. And so they watched it together, the three of them. And Melissa's doing it with Elena and Micaiah, who are 3 and 4 years old. And it's not easy for a mom to do that. But it's only going to get harder. So I think what that revealed to Grandpa is that he's got one of his children that's right on the precipice to addicted to lazy, and she's 3 years old. So Grandpa's got to work on that. So I think it's an answer to your question, Elaine. I think it's like, how does somebody gain a gift? How does somebody gain a gift of reading? It's often where they were read to as a child. And that their parents, their mom, their dad, their grandma, their grandpa, somebody gave them the gift where they had this gift of reading. And so they were read to often as a child. So deep thinking, I think, is the same thing. I think some people may migrate to it naturally, some personalities maybe, but it's painful. It's easier to be lazy than to work hard, but that's not true. Yes, it's true. Well, how can it be something? How can something be true and not true at the same time? It's in the dimensional world. And so it's easier in the moment to be lazy. It's harder in the long term to be lazy. Your life is going to be harder. In the short term, you're going to feel good, just like drugs. Like, it's just being lazy is just like drugs. Like, it feels good in the short term, but you're going to pay in the long term. And so nobody explains this to anybody. Shoot, I'm 61 years old, and it's taken me 61 years to figure this out. Like, I can't understand, why are people lazy? It doesn't make any sense to me. But then when I get into it, I'm like, oh, it does make sense. Okay. Now I understand, I think, why people are lazy. And so they don't see. So there's a best-selling book of all times that says, the truth will set you free. What does this mean? It means that if we don't see the truth, we're enslaved. And people want to be enslaved. When they set the slaves free in the South, a lot of the slaves continued to be slaves. They made a choice. I would rather be a slave than to be free. Well, that doesn't make sense. Well, is that every employee? No. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Like two young men, they said, this last week, they said, Mark, we were talking about going into the factory. I'm like, you can do that versus owning their own company. They're like, how do you make money owning your own company? I'm like, right? It's hard. It's really, really hard. It's just hard. So why would you do that? I don't know. For me, I would rather die in the jungle than live in the zoo. And so once you get the taste for freedom, once you get the taste of truth, once you get the taste of depth in relationships, once you get that, you never want to go back. I mean, it was really cool. It's ironic. It's like, there are a couple Amish that came over for the ladies' night, and one of them is just touching. She said to my daughter, she says, being around your family is just really cool. That opinion's probably going to change. Oh. But it's so cute. It's so ironic. She's like, it's so neat to see. And I'm like, most people would not say that. It's like our family, it's explosive. It's, my gracious. But I think people are like, there is something that's different. Like they're seeking to not have superficial relationships among a husband and a wife and kids and grandkids. Like they're seeking to have the world that I think Cheryl presented at Coffee Connection that I'm still struggling with. And I love this struggle. And that's, to be honest, all the time. Like what a wonderful thing. Like what a wonderful thing that would be. That would be like heaven to me. So anyways, lots of amazing stuff here. Get together with another group, get it together with a group of people. It's always more fun to go through the white papers with a group of people. What'd you see? What'd you think about it? You like it? You didn't like it? It's fine if you totally disagree. You think whoever wrote those white papers is an idiot. That's okay. Like, it's okay. And then communicate that. Hopefully it gets back to the author that you think he or she is an idiot. Because then they can have a conversation. Well, what did you think? Why did you think that? Let's have a conversation about it. If you have any questions on this, connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session, or you can call toll-free 888-230-2300. Outside the U.S., 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.